Well, I was feeling really good last night. Everything that Rob and I and Jeannie talked about, I said, hey, Jeannie and the Laker fans, it's going to take us 3 years, right? We were over the salary cap when I took over with Rob, the team. And I said,
I think Phil has to look in himself and also be accountable, like Jeremy says. Use that as an opportunity to teach your kids about what's happening in America, why they got that on the back of their jersey.
Phil Jackson drops bombshell on Magic Johnson. LeBron knew it all along. The NBA's greatest coach has just shattered one of basketball's most beloved legacies. In a stunning interview, Phil Jackson pulled back the curtain on the true, chaotic story of Magic Johnson's front office reign with the Lakers and revealed a shocking truth about LeBron James's arrival. According to Jackson, LeBron wasn't just signing with a team, he was walking into a burning house, fully aware of the flames. This is the expose that rewrites Lakers history. The setting was a quiet, fireside chat at a charity retreat in Montana, far from the bright lights of Los Angeles. Phil Jackson, the 11-time championship coach, was in a reflective mood, speaking with a small group of former players and longtime basketball historians. The conversation turned to the challenges of building a sustainable culture in the modern NBA. Someone mentioned the turbulent recent history of the Los Angeles Lakers. Jackson, sipping from a mug of tea, grew still, the famous contemplative gaze fixed on the fire. You know, he began, his voice a low, measured rumble, the most difficult thing to build and the easiest thing to destroy is organizational trust. It's the foundation, and once that foundation is cracked by ego and impulsivity, the whole structure becomes unstable. No amount of talent can fix it. He was asked to elaborate. Who did he see as an example of that crack in the foundation? Jackson didn't hesitate. Look at the Lakers post-Jim Buss when Magic Johnson took the helm as president. He left the name hang in the air. Here was a legend, one of the 5 greatest players ever, unmatched charisma, a beloved figure. But running a front office, it's a different sport. He leaned forward. The issue was never his love for the Lakers, it was the execution. It was a reign of pure instinct, of conversations held in hallways and announced on TV before the general manager even knew. There was no process, there was only Magic's gut and Magic's phone. He'd make a promise to a player over dinner that the salary cap couldn't fulfill. He'd publicly court a star, violating every tampering rule in the book, and leave the franchise exposed to millions in fines. He created a state of constant public chaos. There was no chain of command. There was only the chain of communication from Magic's thoughts to Magic's Twitter feed. Then Phil Jackson dropped the bombshell that would send shockwaves through the league. And the most fascinating part, LeBron knew. Of course he knew. He and his team, they do their homework. They do diligence on everything. When LeBron agreed to come to Los Angeles in 2018, he wasn't just agreeing to play for the Lakers. He was agreeing to play for a franchise whose basketball operations were being run, let's say, unconventionally. He was betting that his own power, his own gravity, would be stronger than the chaos. He wasn't walking into a well-oiled machine. He was volunteering to be the new, more powerful engine in a machine that was already backfiring. With that, Phil Jackson had done the unthinkable. He had reframed Magic Johnson's celebrated return to the Lakers not as a homecoming, but as a case study in destructive, impulsive leadership. And even more stunningly, he had painted LeBron James's decision not as a leap of faith, but as a calculated, high-risk power move into a vacuum of authority. The interview, leaked in full to a veteran reporter, was about to detonate the carefully preserved myth of the Lakers' joyful reunion with their prodigal son.
did cross a line that we shouldn't have crossed. And so Adam Silver did his job, and so I take full responsibility because I'm the president of basketball. And so this happened on my watch. It doesn't affect Jeannie Buss. She's been an excellent boss. I love her to death. I love working for her. But at the same time, you have to take ownership and accountability. And so I will do that. And
thought that was.
And then didn't Jim get a crazy call one night?
Gandolfini got a call in the middle of the night anonymous call. He never figured out who it was. He answers the phone, and the guy says, listen, we like what you're doing a really good job, but know one thing.
To understand the devastating weight of Phil Jackson's critique, you have to unpack what he meant by a reign of instinct and no process. Jackson, the architect of the triangle offense and a coach who valued systematic, repeatable actions above all, was describing a front office philosophy that was its absolute antithesis. He pointed to specific, infamous episodes that defined the era. There was the very public and very costly courtship of Paul George. While George was still under contract with the Indiana Pacers, Magic Johnson, then an advisor, openly proclaimed his love for the star on a television show. The result was a historic $500,000 tampering fine from the NBA, but the true cost was far greater. It signaled to every other franchise that the Lakers' new leadership operated with a brazen, rule-breaking impulsivity. It burned a bridge with the Pacers' front office and made other teams wary of dealing with a regime that conducted business on national television. Then came the internal upheaval. The dismissal of longtime GM Mitch Kupchak and executive Jim Buss was executed not with a private meeting, but as a de facto corporate coup. Magic and his chosen partner, Rob Pelinka, were effectively installed in power before the existing regime was formally notified. This move didn't just change personnel, it shattered any sense of institutional loyalty or orderly transition. It communicated that sentiment and history were secondary to the new personal vision of leadership, creating immediate tension and distrust within the building. Most emblematic was the Larry Nance Jr. trade whiplash. Reports swirled that Magic had personally promised the young forward he wouldn't be traded, only for Nance to be shipped to Cleveland just hours later. Whether true or not, the perception cemented the idea of a front office where personal assurances were meaningless and decisions were made on a whim, leaving players feeling disposable and misled. This was the crack in the foundation Jackson described, a fundamental breach of trust between the organization and its people, where words had no anchor in action.
Just answering what Lance asked us to do that follows him. He said, what would you name this group? So I named it.
LeBron, when you have a new group of guys like this, what are the most important first steps to becoming a cohesive unit?
Dedication, attentiveness, and
I barely wash my legs in the shower. I was doing it like calculated. Once I know what I can get away with, I'm not taking any more, bro.
Yeah.
If it's one can and one sweet, that's where we'll wrap.
Yeah.
And maybe if they're low on.
Phil Jackson's most explosive claim wasn't about Magic's chaos. It was about LeBron's awareness of it. He knew, Jackson stated with calm certainty. This reframes LeBron's celebrated 2018 free agency move from a triumphant homecoming to one of the most audacious power plays in sports history. Jackson's point was simple. LeBron James and his brain trust at Clutch Sports conduct forensic-level due diligence. They analyze cap sheets, coaching philosophies, medical staffs, and ownership tendencies. The idea that they were unaware of the turbulent, impulsive environment Magic Johnson was cultivating is, in Jackson's view, naive. The constant tampering fines, the public personnel dramas, the lack of a clear chain of command, these weren't secrets, they were headlines. Therefore, LeBron's decision was a conscious calculation. He wasn't choosing the stable, process-driven culture of a franchise like San Antonio or Miami. He was choosing the Los Angeles market, the Laker legacy, and critically, a power vacuum. In Jackson's analysis, LeBron looked at the chaos and saw not a deterrent, but an opportunity for total sovereignty. A stable, powerful front office provides structure but also imposes limits. It has its own vision and its own leverage. Magic's chaotic reign, however, had weakened the institutional authority of the Lakers' front office. There was no strong, veteran GM to negotiate against. There was only a beloved but inexperienced figurehead prone to public missteps. By entering this environment, LeBron and Rich Paul weren't just joining a team, they were positioning themselves to become the de facto front office. The chaos didn't threaten LeBron's control, it ensured it. He could be the island of stability and decision-making in the center of the storm, leveraging the Lakers' brand and cap space while operating with unprecedented autonomy. Jackson framed it as a masterstroke of realpolitik. LeBron didn't avoid the burning house. He knew he was the only firefighter powerful enough to command the blaze.
Thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he did very well for himself.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but the value has only gone up, and you can see, he's an investor with the Dodgers. Now he's with the Washington football team, and he should have a piece of this team. But I think it was.
Ever get involved in trash talk with Jordan?
Thanks a lot, Jimmy.
I just wonder, because you don't seem like a trash talking kind of guy
I'm
to
not,
me.
and I never talk.
Phil Jackson's bombshell did more than provide a spicy quote. It forced a brutal, wholesale reevaluation of two of the most cherished narratives in Los Angeles sports history. Overnight, the story of Magic Johnson's return to save his beloved franchise curdled. No longer was he the heroic legend restoring glory. Through Jackson's lens, he was recast as a charismatic but disruptive force whose impulsive style undermined the very foundation he hoped to rebuild. The love and excitement of his tenure were reframed as unprofessionalism. His sudden resignation on the sidelines, without telling owner Jeannie Buss face-to-face, was no longer a shocking mystery, but the logical finale of a pattern of avoiding process. Jackson's words gave license to every critic and former employee who had whispered about the disorder, turning those whispers into a public, credible indictment from the highest possible source. Magic's presidency was now permanently tagged with Jackson's damning diagnosis, a crack in the foundation. Similarly, the fairy tale of LeBron's Lakers' homecoming was stripped bare. The popular image was of a king graciously accepting the keys to a restored kingdom. Jackson presented a colder, more calculating reality, a sovereign strategically annexing a territory in institutional disarray. This doesn't diminish LeBron's on-court achievements, including the 2020 championship, but it changes their context. That title is now framed not as the product of a harmonious organization pulling together, but as a triumph of sheer individual will and brilliance in spite of and overcoming a dysfunctional front office. It becomes a testament to his power, not to the Lakers' organizational strength. The partnership with the Lakers was revealed in Jackson's telling to be more of a takeover of a weakened entity. The basketball ecosystem fractured in response. Many executives and former players privately nodded in agreement with Jackson, having witnessed the chaos firsthand. Lakers loyalists and Magic stans were furious, accusing Jackson of bitterness and revisionist history. LeBron's camp maintained a characteristic, powerful silence, neither confirming nor denying Jackson's read, a silence that many interpreted as confirmation. The story was no longer about basketball. It was a philosophical clash between Jackson's ideal of systematic, process-driven team building and the modern reality of superstar-led, opportunistic empire building. Jackson had thrown a stone at two legends, and the ripples were calling everyone's legacy into question.
It felt, very like a familiar feeling that when we got Shaquille O'Neal as a free agent in 1996, it kind of felt the same way, which that is the formula, kind of the way Dr. Buss liked to do things, is to go after the best and,
Again, you can make heads or tails of whether any of this stuff regarding Jeannie Buss and LeBron James is accurate, but it is.
Phil Jackson's decision to break his years of measured silence on this specific issue was not accidental. It was a deliberate, timed intervention from a man who views the game through the lens of systems and legacy. His motivation was likely a fusion of personal history, philosophical disdain, and a warning for the future. Jackson embodies the Lakers' dynasty tradition of the 2000s, a tradition built on Jerry Buss's visionary ownership, a strong front office led by executives like Jerry West, and a culture of professional, if intense, excellence. Magic Johnson's tumultuous presidency represented a stark departure from that model, a shift from considered process to public impulsivity. By speaking out, Jackson may have been defending the legacy of that era, asserting that the Lakers' true strength was never just star power, but a bedrock of organizational integrity. He was drawing a line between the dynasty he helped build and what he perceived as its chaotic dismantling. Furthermore, Jackson's entire coaching philosophy is anathema to the kind of chaos he described. The triangle offense is the ultimate process, a system of rules, spacing, and reads designed to create order out of basketball's inherent randomness. Magic's reported style of gut decisions and hallway negotiations represents chaos. Jackson's comments can be seen as a philosophical rebuttal from the high priest of systemic basketball against the cult of personality-driven management. It was a critique not just of a man, but of an approach he believes is doomed to fail at building anything lasting. Finally, there is the pointed message to Jeannie Buss and the current regime. By highlighting how LeBron knew he was walking into a dysfunctional situation, Jackson is indirectly praising LeBron's shrewdness while issuing a stark warning to ownership. The message is, your franchise was compromised, and the league's smartest player exploited that weakness to maximize his own control. For Jeannie Buss, who has struggled to establish stable leadership since Magic's departure, Jackson's words are a brutal reminder of the cost of that instability. He's essentially saying the chaos didn't just hurt the Lakers, it invited a takeover. His bombshell was as much about safeguarding the franchise's future sovereignty as it was about critiquing its past.
And then the way to get free on dribbling offenses like this is with a screen. So screen roll has become the premier action that's created in this game. The advent of the three-point line, we saw it was going to happen. I think we had a record in the championship against Phoenix, making threes in the final.
And then you had all your media naysayers. Oh, scoring champion can't win an NBA title, or you're not as good as Magic Johnson, you're not as good as Larry Bird. You're good, but you're not as good as.
Phil Jackson's interview has permanently altered the historical record. It has provided an authoritative, insider lens through which the last decade of Lakers history must now be viewed, transforming understanding and legacy in three profound ways. The narrative of Magic Johnson's return to the franchise is irrevocably changed. Future accounts will no longer be able to treat his presidency as a simple, well-intentioned interlude. Jackson's crack in the foundation framing ensures it will be taught as a case study in how legendary playing careers do not translate to front office competence, and how charismatic, impulsive leadership can erode institutional trust faster than it can build a roster. The fines, the abrupt resignation, the player whispers, these are no longer isolated anecdotes, but evidence in Jackson's damning thesis. Magic's chapter is now a cautionary tale, a footnote of chaos between the Kobe and LeBron eras. The 2020 championship, won in the Orlando bubble, now carries a heavier, more complex significance. Jackson's revelation reframes it. It is no longer the culmination of a rebuilt Lakers machine humming in harmony. Instead, it becomes one of LeBron James's most impressive feats, the ultimate demonstration of a singular force of will imposing order on inherited chaos, of a supreme talent overcoming not just opposing teams, but the dysfunctional environment of his own franchise. The title is burnished with a new, almost mythological quality, a king conquering a realm from within its own crumbling castle. Most importantly, Jackson has issued a lasting manifesto. His comments establish a clear philosophical benchmark. Sustainable success is built on process, not personality, on systems, not instincts, on organizational trust, not public relations. Every future Lakers decision, every front office hire, every rumored power struggle will now be measured against the Jackson Doctrine. He has given fans, media, and perhaps even ownership itself the vocabulary and the permission to demand better than chaotic, personality-driven governance. He didn't just expose the past, he set the terms for judging the future. The Zen Master's final lesson wasn't about basketball plays, but about the architecture of a winning organization. and in delivering it, he changed the story of the Lakers forever. So what is the final verdict? Was Phil Jackson a truth teller providing an essential corrective history lesson, or a bitter former figure exploiting his stature to tarnish the legacies of two black icons? Did his expose reveal LeBron James as the most calculating and shrewd superstar in history, or unfairly recast his genuine desire to be a Laker into a cold-hearted power grab? The past has been rewritten. The legacies of a legend and a king have been complicated. The Zen Master has spoken, and the basketball world may never agree on whether his words were wisdom or wrath. Whose side of history do you believe? Jackson's cold process or Magic's passionate chaos? Sound off in the comments below. For the deepest dives into the stories that reshape sports history, subscribe and hit the bell. We analyze the legacy, not just the highlight.